Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 5 of the Mad Nerds Podcast. Episode 5, titled Civil War of Justice. I, of course, am your host, Dave Superhero Deuce, here with my co-host, as always, Mike.
Yes, Mike is the hat on all of the internet. Find me there.
Yes, Superhero Deuce, now also streaming on Twitch. It's a fun time whenever we stream on Twitch. But there's a lot to get to this week. We don't want to waste any of your valuable time. We got our Gotham review. We got our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review. A lot happened at New York Comic Con last week that we're going to cover here on this show as best we can, as well as some big news in the cinematic universes of Marvel and DC. Of course, we brought you the special DC Films podcast in the middle of the week, and now we're going to kind of confirm some of those details later on in the show. But as always, we start off with our Gotham review. So, Mike, what did you think of Arkham, the latest episode of Gotham?
I thought the whole episode was just overacted. Like, it was just way too, over the top for a lot of it. There wasn't, a lot going on. There was, but there wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, there was things happening, but it was just a lot of the love story stuff going on that just needs to drive story, I guess. That's kind of unnecessary. But my favorite part of any of the episode was whenever Maroni was on screen, because that dude was the man in the episode. I just like his character, the way that he's going to be progressing forward. And then there's the weird sexual things that Fish Mooney was doing when she's trying to interview these girls.
Yeah, that was odd, to say the least.
To work at her store or whatever. It was just really weird. The whole thing was just a very odd thing.
Yeah, clearly she's trying to find someone who can seduce Falcone and become his new girlfriend and then eventually betray him. So I'm very curious. That was just a really odd scene, though, going to that, the auditions and then the seduce me. And then for the second week in a row, we have girl-on-girl action. So I'm not quite sure what the producers of the show are thinking we want, but that's really weird that you'd have that in back-to-back episodes of a network show like this. And it was just a weird, uncomfortable scene at times, And then, of course, she had him fight to the death. She's like, I can't decide. You two just kill one. One of you has to die. So, yeah. It's like, wow, that's really messed up, Fish. They're just trying to become singers. What the heck?
Yeah, then we had the whole thing was about the plan for Arkham, which I thought was cool that they were trying to do, the Wayne plan, quote unquote, where they built the new asylum and they had the housing district around there to try and revive that area of Gotham, where I thought they were going to go with the Gotham City thing, or Arkham City thing, where they let the inmates kind of run that area, but they didn't. They got some... you got some corruption stuff that goes back to last week's episode, so that was good. You had to call back to the corrupt councilmen that get killed by generic hitman number 1. And then you had all that, and then he was going to hit the mayor, but he didn't get to kill the mayor because Bullock and James Gordon get there and stop him and kill him. But the mayor still screws up and gives it half and half. So each mafia family has a say in what goes on in Gotham. Falcone gets his housing district, which was part of the Wayne plan. Maroni gets to build a garbage dump or whatever in the typical mafia fashion. And then they're just going to retrofit Arkham. So now that leaves me interested in what's going to happen in that whole area where Arkham is. Especially with the asylum being retrofitted to take inmates again after it's been closed for what did they say, about 15 years?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's really interesting the way we all kind of knew that was going to happen, where it's like, okay, the mayor's going to give them their part, and he's going to give Falcone his part, because otherwise Maroni has no use in the show if they're not going to give him something to do. So I really liked that, and I'm looking at this as they have to keep going back to this Arkham thing as they move forward. Otherwise, the show is going to suffer. They can't just place things like that within their universe and then just forget about them. They clearly took a whole episode to build this up, so there better be some payoff coming.
Yeah, I want to see who they start putting in the asylum. Like, where do these people come from? Who's gonna start getting caught? Is Cobblepot gonna get caught after he's kind of become like Maroni's right hand man all of a sudden? He manages that restaurant, and then
Yeah,
after he set up the restaurant, that was the craziest thing.
that I did not. I'll be honest. I kind of saw that coming, but at the same time, I'm like, but you know what? I really don't know. Like, it would make sense if Falcone ordered the hit, but at the same time, I'm like, It was really convenient how Cobblepot just happened to be in there with the money bag. Like,
Yeah, sitting in the freezer, which was kind of funny. He had the cannoli, which was the cannoli thing where he killed them with the poisoned cannolis, which was awesome.
Man, that was dark. Man, Cobblepot is just... They've made him interesting. I'll give him that. You know what? I'll say it. He's getting better. I'm warming up to this character a little bit because I am seeing that. You know what? He's clever. He is really darn clever to find ways to make stuff work to his advantage. He finds a way to be at the right place at the right time. He's strategic in everything that he does.
Yeah, that's good because that builds into like the normal Penguin character where he's kind of very calculated in what happens in order for him to get somewhere. He's not like a psychopath that just wants chaos like the Joker would. He wants some sort of order in his plans, and they seem to be building to that with the way that they're building Cobblepot up.
I agree with that. And the other thing that I really liked about this was that I'm starting to feel like Maroni might have ordered the hit on Bruce Wayne's parents. I feel like they might go that route because it would make sense. It's like, okay, if I take them out, I'm going to start gaining more power in... Because if you think about it, if the Waynes had been alive, well, there'd be no reason to have to change the Arkham plans, right? So clearly taking them out was the key. I don't know if they'll go that route, but that's what would make sense to me, is if Maroni somehow ordered the hit on the Wayne family.
Yeah, it makes sense because it does keep with the comic book thing where the Waynes were murdered by somebody involved in the organized crime, but that would be a great way to go with the show. I don't know how many, fanboys would like that, but it's better than just, going the Tim Burton route and saying it was the Joker.
Yeah, within the show, within the universe of the show, it would make sense. Now, something that I found interesting, too, was that Gordon found out about Barbara and Montoya, but of course, Barbara never found out about who Oswald's Cobblepot was. And Gordon kind of, dodged that bullet, and they had their little fight. And I'm looking at this and kind of doing my history reading on this. Sarah Essen, who is Jim Gordon's boss, has a little affair with Mr. Gordon in the comic books. And I'm like, well, they just set that up. Barbara's mad. She storms out. Jim's going to be mad. So what's Jim going to do? He's going to hook up with Sarah Essen.
Yeah, but
Here we go.
That was so many years after all of this. Like, that's such an old Jim Gordon thing, not a young Jim Gordon thing. Gordon does that when he is, I think it's in the Dark Knight Returns comic book where he's kind of older and he's working with them because he's kind of on his way out and then winds up hitting it off with, I gotta make sure that that's right. But it's definitely set up for that now, but I mean, Gordon and Barbara aren't even married yet.
Yeah, they set that up way too easily. There's going to be, they're going to hook up and she's going to find out, and Jim, I think it's going to be just part of the corruption getting to James Gordon in the show. I think it's way too obvious that that's the route they're going. I mean, why would you rush into this 4 episodes in to have them have a fight of this magnitude? Like, no more secrets, Jim. No more, and then they just, and it was all stupid. I didn't like how it went down, but it's like, okay, well, I guess you're going to get that out of the way pretty quickly. The other thing I didn't like about this episode was the Riddler continues to just be completely wasted. I feel like he's forced into episodes, but at least this time he was pretty funny when he showed up.
Yeah, I actually thought that his presence there made sense because it led them to to who the killer was. So I thought that was pretty good, but other than that, yeah, he has been kind of very in whatever, but The Sarah Essen and Jim Gordon thing is Batman Year One, not The Dark Knight Returns, by the way.
Okay.
Just so
just so you know that Mike does actually know what he's talking about. He's not.
It's the beginning of Batman. It was a Frank Miller book. That's why I got them all mixed up. But the fact that the Riddler was there is great. He did his job. Like, he's doing his job. They're not making him too over the top like they did the first episode, although he did say the paradox thing again, and then tried to explain paradoxes, and Bullock got pissed.
Yeah, like I said, it was actually a pretty funny scene, but it still goes back to, okay, the rest of your show is like super dark, and then you bring in the Riddler, who's the complete opposite of super dark. He's just weird and funny.
He's there. That's what he's there for. He's the comic relief, which is good, because you do have to have some of that. It can't be all death and decay all the time. You have to have somebody there to kind of brighten it up. Cobblepot does it at points, but the Riddler has to come in at least, I feel like, at once an episode and say something stupid that angers Bullock, that makes it funny for everybody else.
Right, and going back to Bullock, kind of along those same lines, I continue to really love him and Bruce and their dynamic. They really are continuing to be very entertaining whenever they have to work together, and their differences and everything that's going on with that. And then, of course, Bullock showing up at the end and just blasting Gladwell and just killing the dude. I just liked how all that went down. Like, you know what? They are showing that they can be a team, even though they disagree on a lot of things and they're very different. They're a fun team. I like them.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good combination. You did say Bullock and Bruce when you meant Bullock and Gordon.
Bullock and Gordon, that's what I meant. I was looking at my notes and I was preparing to talk about Bruce next, and then, of course, I said Bruce. Yeah, Jim, James, Gordon, yes.
They do work really well together, like they do in all the other Batman, universes, or however you want to call them, all the other Batman stories. Bullock and Gordon work well, even though Bullock is kind of, we'll leave your imagination to fill that in, what I was going to say. But he works well with Gordon because they have the good cop, bad cop dynamic that every crop story needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And well, kind of going back to that, and like I mentioned Bruce accidentally. I like that Bruce is. You're seeing these little seeds. Like, he was continuing to do a lot of detective work, which I really liked, and the fact that it's legitimate. Like, he's saying, "I'm looking for connections," and Alfred isn't trying to stop him. He's just like, okay. And then Bruce is like, "Can Gotham even be saved? Like, is this even worth your time? Like, why are you even doing this?" And I like that. I still think it's just a weird thing to put in since we're never going to get a Batman series, but it works, and it's done well, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, the more that this kid is on screen, the better, I think. I really enjoy the fact that kid's there, and I hope that they do something with it. Like, even if it's just this builds into, eventually down the road, a few years, into like a Batman Year One storyline television show where it's just kind of like a one-off season, like the finale season of Gotham, if it makes it that far, where he just becomes Batman and you see him go through as Batman for the first year.
Yeah, nobody can figure out what's going on. Like, maybe we never see Batman, but it's clear that he exists. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, it's just something that needs to happen with the way that they're building this kid up as starting to learn how to become a detective and asking Gordon a lot of questions and trying to overcome his fears in the first couple episodes where he's like burning his hand and standing on top of the roof of the house.
He's clearly angry.
Yeah, exactly. He's out for revenge, but like when Gordon said that he didn't catch the guy and he was like, "That's okay." You know what I mean? Like, we got the wrong guy, and he's just like, "That's okay," because he wants to bring him to justice himself, kind of thing. Like they said. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with that.
There is, and the next episode when they showed the teaser looks like it's going to just be packed, and I'm like, oh my goodness, where are they even going with all this, man? But a couple other things, just real bullet points that I liked about this episode. Gordon in hand-to-hand combat against Gladwell was really well shot. I liked it. I thought that the choreography of the fight scene was great. And also, Gladwell was scary, man. Like, I know he's just another freak of the week type thing, but my goodness, this guy seemed like he was demented. He's like, my father taught me this, and, showed me how to make this cool little weapon that he had where you just, stab people, and the way that he lit the guy on fire, and he's like, my employer, who we never really found out exactly who it was, my employer instructed me to do this. And it's like, who the heck hired you, man? It's really weird, but he was scary. Every time he was on the screen, I was like, is someone about to die? This man. And the whole backstory thing and how he stole somebody's identity, I'm like, man, this is, you know what? I don't like the Freak of the Week thing because I feel like you could get, like, legitimate villains from the Batman series. I liked this guy, though. I'll take him.
Yeah, he worked in what he was doing. He was there to drive story and try and get these guys to sway votes, right? He was there to sway the vote of the Arkham project.
Yeah, and he did his... I'm sure that at some point we'll find out who hired him, which I think will be awesome. I'm sure it's going to be somebody who we didn't see coming that had some sort of a stake in Arkham becoming the way it is. And we'll get to see where Cobblepot's going now that he's the manager of the restaurant, and the whole sneaky cannoli thing, and the Catwoman's going to come back. Well, Selena Kyle, Cat, whatever, is coming back in the next episode. So it should be good. But Mike, what's your score for this episode?
I would give this... Well, let's go through the ratings, the viewers first. So this got a 2.4 rating share out of 7, and the viewers actually went up by 30,000, so this 6.39 million views. So it's big. They got the DVR numbers out for the first for the pilot episode. DVR numbers did pretty well. So overall, the first episode got 14.15 million viewers. So that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's really solid.
But overall, this episode was better than last week. I can look past the Jim Gordon Barbara Keene fight being way too dramatic and overacted. And I'll give this one a solid 7, saying that, like I say every week, there's always room for improvement in the show. There's just some awkward moments. The Penguin and the Riddler were high points for me, as well as Gladwell and the Bullock-Gordon dynamic that we both seem to love. So 7 for me. David, what do you have?
I'm going to give it a 7.5, only because I really did like the way that this kind of built a universe, but told a good story as well, which it still had some of its weird quirks that I'm not a fan of, but I felt like it's improved. I gave, episode 2, I gave that one an 8, and I don't think this one was quite as good, but I thought it was almost as good, so I'm going to go with a 7.5.
Nice. So that brings us to this week's Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, which I still have not watched because I'm so far behind. So, David, what happened this week in the Marvel Universe on television?
Well, this one was very much a compartmentalized story involving a painting with some alien writing on it that we've seen Agent Coulson was carving on, and like the same symbols that he carved because he has this alien blood, which we believe to be Kree blood, injected in him. It's the same stuff that John Garrett, the villain from Season 1, carved, and they found this painting that survived a fire in Miami. And it's really interesting because the painting was super old, but the carvings on it were fresh, which means that somebody else out there has that alien blood injected in them just like Coulson does. We don't know who that is yet, but we have a pretty good idea. The Kraken shows up at the end and is talking to Raina, who of course is connected with Sky's father. We know that next week we are going to see Sky meet her father. The Kraken is very unhappy that they have this alien artifact, and he wants it back, or he's going to start killing people. So that was pretty awesome. But the main storyline, of course, involved a lot of those things with Coulson and his team, and we see that Agent 33 is already playing a huge role for Hydra now that she's been brainwashed. We see a cool piece of technology that I'm sorry I'm going to have to spoil this for you, Mike, but do you remember in Captain America the Winter Soldier when Black Widow disguised herself as a council member?
Yes.
That technology appears in this episode, being used by Hydra to disguise Agent 33 and to disguise another Hydra agent to look like General Talbot, and it completely fooled the Marvel team. There's some epic hand-to-hand combat involving Agent May and we see Agent Coulson be awesome. They got the painting, so they're going to continue to do some research on that. But this was a good episode. It was really solid. It's not as good as some of the other ones as far as like the action goes and stuff, but we really got a good depth into Coulson and Agent May's relationship. Like, he really knows her inside and out. They have a history together, and probably my favorite part of this episode, though, was that when it came down to it, Agent May and Coulson were having a discussion because Coulson knows he could lose his mind just like John Garrett did. And he's like, okay, we need to have a plan for if I completely go off the deep end with this. And she's like, well, I'm not going to shoot you in the head. He says, that's great that you've come up with a contingency plan to not shoot me in the head, but I'm the director and this is an order. You need to do this. You need to shoot me in the head because we cannot afford to have me go completely AWOL and wreck S.H.I.E.L.D. And so I'm like, man, that is just really dark. It shows that she cares for him, but it also shows, hey, you know what? He gets it. I'm the director, and there's more at stake than just our friendship here. And there was a real dynamic of we can't live in nostalgia. We have to deal with the world that we live in now. And I'm like, man, this is a good episode. A lot of hard-hitting stuff in there in the feels department.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be an amazing episode when I actually get around to fully catch up with this show and know what is going on all over the place instead of just jumping in at some random plot point. But these developments, how do you see them moving forward, aside from the Sky's Father thing, because we already seem to know that, but what else do you see happening in the next episode?
Well, I'll talk about the teaser for next week's episode. Mockingbird is coming next episode. They put her in the teaser like 3 times. Simmons, who's of course working as a double agent, she's working within Hydra as an agent for S.H.I.E.L.D., undercover. Well, her cover's going to get blown, probably by Mockingbird, because Mockingbird's the head of Hydra security, which is awesome. And the cool thing with me, like, I had a complete nerd stroke, because Mockingbird is walking down a hallway, going after Simmons with her sticks. And I'm like, well, that's a nice subtle nod to the comic book in a teaser. I'm excited to see her actually hit people with those. And I just really like it. She's fierce. Adrienne Palicki can really act. And so where I see this going was, of course, they advanced the alien thing on. And we know that Hydra needs the alien artifacts. They're after them. The Kraken clearly has some kind of a connection to them because he's been alive since like World War II. He hasn't even aged since World War II. So it's wonder where this is going. I'm really not sure where they're going to go with him, but I would not be surprised if they revealed that he's an alien. I seriously think that he's going to be kind of like Ulysses Klaue was in the Ultimates universe of Marvel, where he was disguised as an alien. They used that as a Chitauri, but of course the Chitauri in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are not shapeshifters, but they can make the Kree shapeshifters, and that would be totally valid. So I think that's where they're going to go with that. And then as far as all of that goes, I think there is going to come a time when Coulson is going to lose it. And I don't think they're going to shoot him, but I think it's going to be one of those deals where, how does this affect the team that he's not all there? Because it's been kept a secret from the rest of his team that he's not all together, that he is carving these symbols on the wall and stuff. So I think that we're going to get a reveal at some point of the team is going to have to question him. And I'm excited for when that happens, but this is really curious. Like, this was very much a universe-building episode. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. If I'm going to give it a score, I'm going to probably say a 7, because it could have been better. There was some pacing issues with this one. But there was also a lot of good humor, of course, and there was some good universe building, so I think a 7 is an appropriate score.
7? Very nice. Let's see. It is, it's getting some good viewers, man. Just like Gotham. We went over it last week, I believe it was, to see why can't I find the actual viewer numbers. Yeah. Well, it's doing well. The
thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., too, is that it goes up against some extremely popular shows like NCIS New Orleans and things of that nature in its same time slot. So its DVR ratings essentially double its viewers, from what I understand, or increase it by 50%. I apologize. Bad math.
So
if there was like 5 million viewers, then 2.5 million more viewers on top of that have DVR'd the show. and a lot of them are young people, so they're hitting their age demographic right on the nose.
Yeah, they're right around 5 million for this episode, 4.7. The DVR numbers for the first episode of the season are out, so they got right around 6, 5.98 in the regular viewing slot, and then they added another 4 in the DVR, so they were right around 10 million viewers for the first episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like people look at that show and say, "Oh, Agents of Shield, numbers are sucking." Look at the DVR numbers. It's one of the most popular DVR shows. Like, it's fine, and it's one of those shows that you don't want to have to sit through commercials because it's so fast paced that you just want to buzz right through it and finish, which is what I do when I watch the show. I start about 15 minutes late, so I don't have to watch the commercials. I just DVR that sucker and watch it essentially live, but not live. So I'm excited. Next week's episode should be the best yet. If you really want some high-action drama, there's going to be 2 concurrent storylines. There's going to be Simmons getting uncovered in Hydra, and Skye trying to meet her dad. So this is all going to just unfold in that episode, and it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a doozy.
Nice. That's something to look forward to for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans and people like me who are trying to catch up.
Right, so going from the comic television universe to the comics universe, on the DC side of things, Mike, Justice League number 35 was pretty interesting this week.
Yeah, so Justice League number 35 came out this past Wednesday, and it introduces a new story, a new thing in the Justice League, the Amazo virus. I think I'm saying that correctly. I hope I am. It might be something else, but something that we talked about last night off air when we were screwing around on PlayStation, and you asked if Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor had ever teamed up, their enterprises, their corporations. And
yeah, we were talking about the movie universe and how would they ever tie together in the movies. Like, was there any comic basis for that? And, of course, here we get our answer.
Yep, and now we get it. So in this storyline, however long it's going to go, Bruce and Lex are teaming up, Wayne Enterprises and LexCorp. They don't really know why. They got this crazy virus that's going on that's pitting the regular humans versus the meta or superhumans. And things are going crazy. So it just seems like, the cover of this, Batman has like a hazmat mask on, so he's not breathing the air. There's some guys in hazmat suits. There's some military personnel. What looks to be some dead heroes. Aquaman's sprawled out on the floor. Cyborg's knocked out. The Flash looks like he's very weak as Batman's kind of holding him up. It's just a very dark looking cover. There's a lot of images that need to be seen. So if you're reading this, great. If not, you probably should. I might go pick it up just to take a look at it. Of course, the Future's End continues. They're up to issue 24 this week in DC Comics. There's a lot of graphic novels coming out in the next couple weeks that are going to help. Well, graphic novels or trade paperbacks, whichever you want to call them, coming out to kind of close up some storylines. So DC's got a lot going on there. And, of course, we talked about all their stuff that was going on in their movie universe on Wednesday. So be sure to check that out.
Sounds awesome. A lot of good stuff going on in that, of course, coming on the heels of Endgame, which was a pretty big event last week. And that's a monthly, we understand, right? It's only coming out once a month?
Yeah, from what the research that I've done, because I haven't been to the comic store in a couple weeks, it looks like it's only going to come out once a month. So they had part 1 last week, I believe it was, and now moving forward, I think it'll only be once a month because it's their main Batman title. It's not Batman Eternal. It's not Batman and Robin. It's not Batman Begins
or Batman Beyond
or Batman Beyond or anything like that. It's Batman. Batman 35, I think that one was Endgame. So we'll see how that moves along. Fables, one of my books is moving on towards its end. They're about 5 issues away. They released issue 145 this week. So things are happening, and that's a Vertigo comic, which is like the bottom, the DC Comics like fantasy world, because that's where Constantine started out as Hellblazer, was on the Vertigo thing, and then DC took it over, and now it's just called Constantine. And then they got a TV show out of it, which actually starts this coming Friday, so don't forget about that.
We may check that out, and we may review the pilot on our show. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what our schedules look like. We may review the pilot. If people want it, we'll do it. That's pretty much the way it's going to go. If enough of you want it, we will find a way to do it.
So, David, what's going on in Marvel's comic world this week? What do they have out for us?
A lot. Oh my goodness. Trying to keep up with their events is a chore, to say the least. But one of them, it did finally wind down. Wolverine has died. James Logan is officially dead. It's a really epic cover with Death carrying the body of Wolverine on the cover. I'm just like, woo! All right, here we go. He's dead. But the way they killed him off was really good. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but it was fitting. It wasn't completely weird and over the top, but it was just a good ending. It wasn't overly comic booky. They just let him have his good ending. He kills off one of the Weapon X guys, though, kind of as like his revenge. Like, you did this to me, like, because the guy was trying to kill him because he knew he couldn't, like, to see if he could heal, and Wolverine just diced and sliced and snickety sniced, and it was amazing. Definitely pick up that book. Pick up all four. Pick up all four Death of Wolverines. They're definitely worth your time. Very well drawn, very well written, very good homage to one of Marvel's great characters, who they're probably going to keep out of the comics at least for another couple years, I'm guessing. At least that's what they've said. And they said when they do bring him back, it will be logical and it'll be awesome, because, of course, in comics, nobody's ever really dead except for Uncle Ben.
It's true.
It's true. He's the only one. And the final Edge of Spider-Verse came out, issue number 5 of 5. I have not had a chance to read it yet, so I won't be discussing it too in-depth. One interesting thing I do want to say was that Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen, as they're calling her, was an Edge of Spider-Verse book, and at New York Comic Con they announced that she will be getting a full series, which I think is going to be awesome, because it's basically just reverse Spider-Man. Whereas, she is Spider-Man, and Peter Parker is the one that had to be saved, and, all that stuff. So I really liked where that was going. But the big event going on in the Marvel Universe right now is Avengers and X-Men Axis. Number 2 came out this week, and the Red Skull, or as they're now calling him, Red Onslaught, he has, in the past, due to Charles Xavier's mind control tricks, because he got Charles Xavier's brain, he manipulated Tony Stark into building him an army of Iron Sentinels. Iron Sentinels, just weaponized Tony Stark-built Sentinels. If that doesn't scare the pants off you, I don't know what does. But, the Avengers and the X-Men and, like, Havoc and Cyclops and everybody's trying to, rally the Uncanny Avengers and, the X-Men and all these people together, and they can't take them down. They're struggling. They're getting their butt kicked. Tony Stark's having mental issues. There's some flashbacks going on there. And then at the end of the comic, Mike, I sent you this picture. Tell me on a scale of 1 to 1 million how epic this picture is. Magneto shows up and says, "I'm good at killing Nazis," with his villain team. And I'm just like, yeah, nerdgasm! The image that you sent me from the book, oh man, this is going to be one of the next, iconic images in Marvel. You got a who's who of villains here, especially with, Magneto leading the team. The Doctor Doom's just chilling over there. Deadpool kind of hanging out in the background. Jack-o'-lantern, Carnage, Loki's hanging out with his big sword. Mystique, obviously, because Magneto and Mystique are always together, I feel like. And it's just a great image, and it has that word bubble, like you said, like, you guys are killing Nazis? Like, hey, I was in the Holocaust, what's up? Let me get my hand at this. Yeah, his exact quote is, "And I'm pretty fair at killing Nazis." Just, oh, yeah, here we go. The villains are here to save the day. Truly just kind of showing you the scale of this event. And what I think is really interesting is they've kind of kept the Fantastic Four out of it, but Doctor Doom is there. So Marvel has made it clear, we really want Doctor Doom back in our cinematic universe. But here's the full lineup. Find this image. It's the final panel of issue number 2 of the Axis event. This is who's in it. It's Carnage, Magneto, Sabretooth, Mystique, Doctor Doom, the Enchantress, Deadpool, who's kind of looking like Spider-Man, the Absorbing Man with his ball and chain, Loki, Jack-o'-lantern, and the Hobgoblin. Now that is quite a cast of, like, the Jack-o'-lantern. Like, who the heck would think of the Jack-o'-lantern? But an absorbing man, kind of fitting after he was just on the TV show. But I think that this really is going to be an event that shakes the Marvel Universe to its core, and you can tell that they are really using this as a setup to the next point we're going to talk about, which was announced at New York Comic-Con, that Civil War is coming back to Marvel Comics in 2015.
Yeah, I love every bit of that because Civil War is such a great storyline that what was it, in the 90s or the early 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000s.
It was. I still haven't completely finished all the tie-ins for that yet because, like I said, I think it was on the beginning, our first episode. There's like 107 total books that tie in with that Civil War storyline. So I'm still working my way through that. But man, it's great that it's coming back. And from what I understand, from what we've talked about, just kind of talking to each other, not even talking about our show, like you say that it's going to be kind of a branching through time type thing, or throughout the different Marvel, universes.
Yes, they very much have teased that that's what this is going to be. They had a few different teaser images come out from that, so you can kind of see where they're going. Of course, Tony Stark is having his issues with the fact that he's made a huge mistake in building these Iron Sentinels, and he's basically created a threat for the whole world that they can't stop. They can't seem to stop because Red Onslaught's just going to tear them apart. And so the first image that they teased had 3 different variations of Captain America. You had World War II Captain America, you had more modern Steve Rogers Captain America, and you had Falcon Captain America. You had Miles Morales Spider-Man on there. You had Tony Stark on there, of course, with a few different armors. You had female Thor, you had male Thor, and it's just like, oh, where are you going with this, man? But the most entertaining teaser poster that said Civil War on it was Captain America pulling one side of Iron Spider and Iron Man pulling the other arm, and he's in the middle just like stuck. And you're like, here we go, the party's on, everybody. Civil War's coming back, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, like I said, great storyline. Now Iron Spider is connected with the original Civil War, right? Is that what they were calling Peter Parker in that thing?
Yeah.
Or were they just giving him the Spider-Man character? Because that's when, Tony Stark gave him the suit that he didn't have to put on the costume anymore. It was kind of always on him, where he just kind of thought about becoming Spider-Man, and the suit would, change his clothes out or whatever. It was crazy.
Yeah, same deal. He's wearing that costume, so it's Peter Parker, I presume, wearing the Iron Spider suit. And like you said, it goes back to the original, but I think that this one's going to be a little different. I'm sure that they're going to find a way to rework this, and because of course the Fantastic Four will not be involved. There will be no Reed Richards or Sue Storm or anybody like that involved in this one. I think that they're going to scale this one back a little bit. I feel like this one may not even involve the X-Men at all once again. But I think that as they've been kind of doing, I feel like this is going to really try to tie into their cinematic universe, which we'll get to in a little bit, in how they're doing all of this. And so I'm really excited to see how Axis ends up, because that's what I think is going to be the lead-in to this next big Civil War event in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I want to get into the movie stuff now. So, we had our big DC thing that we talked about, right? Last, we did the special episode, so we have 2 episodes up this week, and, we talked about how they're announcing all of these movies, and you pinpointed out what's going to get released when, based on the, little skeleton of what they gave us last time we spoke. So what was your thing for DC, the dates that you picked up?
Right, okay, so what we have confirmed, and if I mess up the order, I apologize. I'm going solely off of memory when looking at this chart of dates. So here's what we have as far as the dates go in the DC universe. We of course know about Batman vs. Superman on March 25th of 2016, so that one's still about a year and a half away. And then after that, we get the Suicide Squad on August 5th of 2016. On June 23rd of 2017, we will get the Wonder Woman film. And then later that year, on November 17th, we will get Justice League Part 1, which is interesting. So then we go to 2018, and I believe we get the Aquaman film on March 23rd of 2018. And then, if I'm not mistaken, it's The Flash is next, I think, on July 27th of 2018. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to. And then you get in 2019 on April 5th, I believe that is the Shazam. And on June 14th of 2019 is Justice League Part 2. Then in 2020, on April 3rd, it's going to be Cyborg solo film. And on June 19th of 2020, Green Lantern. So there's your rundown. That has essentially been confirmed by the people at DC that's when those movies will be coming out.
Yeah, the Warner Brothers DC thing, like we talked about the announcements last time. If you want to watch that episode or listen, it's available. iTunes, Podomatic, on YouTube. I'm sure you could find it somewhere else on the internet, but I don't know why you would. But it's there if you need to hear us talk about and speculate for that. But we do have some other speculation type things for the Batman versus Superman movie.
Right. We have some casting news for that. There has been an announcement, in case you missed it, that the female Robin has been officially cast, from what we can tell, in Batman vs. Superman. You may recognize her from The Hunger Games, Catching Fire. You may recognize her from Sucker Punch. Jenna Malone is going to play Carrie Kelly in Batman vs. Superman.
Now, I don't really have a problem with that casting. I think that's actually great casting because I didn't see The Hunger Games. I saw her in Sucker Punch. She had, short hair. She fits that Carrie Kelly type, body type, short hair, kind of small girl. Of course, Carrie Kelly's only 13 years old in the Dark Knight Returns, so that obviously doesn't match up. But
yeah, they've clearly aged her a little bit, but she'll probably be like 20, 23 maybe, or maybe like 18 or something.
But I mean, she will fit well in that because they let her in Sucker Punch. She got to jump around and do like crazy stunts and stuff like that. So the casting to me makes sense.
Yeah, I like this. I think that she's a good actress. If you saw Hunger Games: Catching Fire, she can play a little bit crazy, but she can also play serious when she needs to. She does have that kid quality about her. Like, she's older, but she's definitely a kid at heart. And I think she's going to play the character just fine. She can play in a dark universe, and she can also play just some humor, which I think is what they were looking for with this part. And so for me, anybody who's saying that they would rather see Dick Grayson here, well, listen, there's already been rumors that there's going to be a Nightwing on a Teen Titans TV series, so just get your head out of your behind and accept reality for what it is. They're going to try to it's a Dark Knight Returns movie, so there's going to be a female Robin. She's probably going to be cool. I trust Zack Snyder. He seems to love this, so he's not going to screw it up. I'm confident that she's the right pick, and I think that she's going to do just fine in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, in the Dark Knight Returns, you don't really see, and like I said last week, I don't want to see Nightwing anywhere.
Yeah, you'd be fine if he just didn't show up at all.
Yeah, although I do want to check out the Dick Grayson book that they have out now that's running in the New 52, but I really don't want to see, because I don't think he does Nightwing, and there's a picture of him with a gun in one of the teaser things that I saw, but I'm all for this. Like, if it makes it any more the closest as it can get to the actual book, The Dark Knight Returns, the better, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I'm looking at that as something that, people can complain, everybody has opinions, but just, that's fine, you can have your opinions. We aren't saying don't have opinions, but at the same time, don't get mad because they didn't cast who you expected them to cast, or what you wanted them to do. This isn't a fan service movie. This is something that they think is going to be the best for their universe, and just let them do it. You know what? Trust them. You have no reason not to at this point. They're doing just fine. And then a few other things were confirmed, though. involving Batman versus Superman and the Justice League universe. So here's what we know. We know that at some point Lex Luthor he's in Batman versus Superman. He's one of the villains. There's been some rumors that him and Bruce Wayne are going to be manipulated in some way, and there's something that's kind of controlling them. We're going to see, of course, Cyborg show up. We're going to see the Flash, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman are all going to show up in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. And all of this is going to lead into Justice League 1, and we speculated on our show, and we ended up hitting it right on the head, that this is leading into Brainiac. Brainiac is kind of pulling the strings in Batman vs. Superman, and he will be the villain in Justice League Part 1.
Now, see, this makes a call to The Dark Knight Strikes Again, which was the sequel to The Dark Knight Returns, where Brainiac kind of is running things. Now, it makes sense because Brainiac is a big, huge entity in the DC universe, like we talked about last time, where Brainiac's making his appearance in Future's End. He's tied into everything. I feel like every time there's some sort of big thing, Brainiac's going to be there. So, just a quick hit on Batman: The Dark Knight Strikes Again, the other Frank Miller Batman book. Lex Luthor and Brainiac have made a computer-generated president to kind of have Superman attack Batman. So that might be where they're going with this thing, but we don't know anything for sure, of course.
Right. The other thing that they could do with this, since the rumor mentions that Bruce Wayne may be manipulated, is that what if this president, or what if in some way that they get Batman to try to attack Superman and kind of pull a switcheroo on it? But we don't know. I'd actually kind of like it if they did what you were speculating about from the comics, that there's this president that gets Superman to attack Batman, and then of course there's your war, and that would make sense. Then they actually have a reason to fight each other. What a fancy idea.
No, well, if they went exactly 100% true to Dark Knight Returns, you'd have whoever the president is. They could make it Obama, or they could make it whoever.
DC's kind of tried to stray away from having like real life people and places in their movies. So,
I mean, they do it in the comic books too, but they had Ronald Reagan in The Dark Knight Returns because it was right in his, during his time as president, which was weird. So you have Ronald Reagan. That's what set Gotham and Metropolis, obviously, in the United States, but it's like they could do it that way, where, because Superman, like we were saying on that episode, because Superman messed up so much stuff in Metropolis, he has to work for the government in order to pay off his debts type thing. And, they see Batman doing his Batman thing in Gotham City, and they're like, no, we can't have that. You screwed up everything last time, so go stop him. And then that's how the fight starts. That's what I would like to see.
Okay. I could go with that. And then one other quick detail is that, of course, the World Engine, which was in Man of Steel, or so we've heard. We haven't seen it, so honestly, I'm reading what has been said. If you've seen it, awesome. But the World Engine plays a big part in this because it apparently has destroyed parts of Atlantis, which, of course, would bring Aquaman into this. But at the same time, it would also involve bringing Brainiac and other, it's leading Brainiac to Earth because it's kind of like a beacon of sorts. It's like a Kryptonian beacon that Superman set up in Man of Steel. So a lot of this comes together, and it kind of, you can see there was some universe building maybe going on in Man of Steel that made it not such a great movie. But all at the same time, I like that they're at least finding ways to incorporate all of this stuff and find a. They really needed to get a way for Aquaman to make sense in this. Like, why would Aquaman even care what's going on the surface of Earth? Oh, part of Atlantis got destroyed by some machine? Okay, here comes Aquaman, pissed off and ready to fight.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense to have him there if there was some sort of thing that happened underwater, or like somebody was killing a bunch of fish, or there's something that angers him. So if they destroyed part of his city, a part of his, area, then it makes sense for him to come out of the water and say something to somebody.
Right, and so, kind of going along those lines, speaking of people needing a reason to show up, well, there's been some speculation, I'm not sure if it's been confirmed yet, but this is what's being reported, is that at the end of Justice League Part 1, Green Lantern is going to show up, and he's going to, after Brainiac's been defeated, he's going to show up and say, hey guys, there's an even bigger threat on the way from the cosmic side of things. His name is Darkseid. You really need to be afraid of him. He's worse than Brainiac. And so that would make sense, because it's like, okay, Green Lantern probably has encountered Darkseid at some point out there in the cosmos, and would be coming to Earth to warn Earth from about its imminent destruction. And then, of course, he would then play a much more significant part in Justice League Part 2, and it would make sense to why we would actually see him. So, if this is true, I like it.
Yeah, I just wish that there was less Green Lantern mentioned in that statement that you just said. Like, there's no Green Lantern, like somebody else came.
Well, they're keeping him out of Batman v Superman and out of pretty much all of Justice League Part 1, so they're giving you as little Green Lantern as possible.
Or, like, if Darkseid just sent, like, some message to them, because, why wouldn't he? He has the technology, I'm sure, to, like, send a message to Earth and tell them, if you don't clean up your act or whatever, I'm coming.
Yeah, basically
it's going to
Mike
be bad.
is saying he would rather not see Green Lantern in any way, shape, or form.
At all. This is the thing, like, the Green Lantern, I said his like, worst thing that could happen to him is he could get a handshake so he could take his ring. But who else, what other superhero has a weakness to something that's found on Earth? Like Superman and the kryptonite. Like, that's okay, but, like, a Green Lantern's weakness is to wood. So, like, in one story, like, I was reading one of the Batman, trades, and it had, like, a story about the one that I've talked about a couple times where, like, Bruce Wayne talks about how, Green Lantern was, like, a kid. When he was a kid, he saw Green Lantern in Gotham or whatever. And this guy's going crazy, like, trying to kill the new Green Lantern or whatever, and he has, like, a baseball bat, and he's like, my dad beat Green Lantern with this baseball bat. It's like, Green Lantern just gets worse and worse to me, like, every time I find something out about him, and I'm just like, what a terrible hero.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly not the brightest day of the DC universe, more like Blackest Night. But so that's all that we know about those movies. More is going to come out undoubtedly in the coming weeks and months as Batman v Superman continues to film. Looks like they're building some sets in New Mexico right now. So all of that is very exciting and very awesome. We're going to jump back over to the Marvel side now of things. We want to just clarify one thing. The time travel thing going on with, like, the multiple Captain Americas and such, that's called Secret Wars, by the way. So Civil War and Secret Wars are two different things. They said Secret Wars is going to be slightly different, and that the X-Men are going to have a key role in that, whereas Civil War they're not going to be doing as much. So we wanted to just clarify that, and there's not a lot known about Secret Wars right now, but it looks awesome. Mentioning Civil War, there was a big announcement this week, seemingly right around the time that DC and Warner Brothers decided to announce their future movie plans, that Robert Downey Jr. has been confirmed for Captain America 3, working subtitle of Fallen Sun and Civil War, according to Badass Digest and Variety and multiple other reports. Mike, you have said multiple times you would love to see Civil War come to the big screen. Now it's confirmed Robert Downey Jr. is going to be in it.
Yes.
Here we go. Here we go.
As I sit here, I'm looking up to the sky and thanking Comic Book Jesus that this is happening.
Comic Book Jesus, real Jesus, whatever deity you believe in, thank them for this. Kevin Feige, Joss Whedon.
Yeah, the Buddy Christ from the Kevin Smith universe that I look at, the little bobblehead that I have over here. I shook his hand. Like, yeah. It's only gonna get better. Like, that's it. That's all. This is the ultimate event, I feel like, in Marvel in the last 10 years. Or, well, it's closer to 15 now, but, like, that's their big event that's happened. And it was such a critical success in the comic book form that why wouldn't it make sense to put that on film somehow? you have all the pieces now that you've sat down and done all these cinematic movie, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why not? Of course, they don't have, the Spider-Man thing. They're working on that, and the Fantastic Four thing that we talked about. But, like, they have the Shield, they have not Batman, Cap, and Iron Man, and they can start working their differences, and then all of a sudden, boom, it explodes into this thing. And hopefully they can get Spider-Man to do it because, like I've said, he's the biggest part of that whole thing.
Yeah, and of course a lot of this comes on the heels of, Robert Downey Jr. was out promoting The Judge, and he said there are deals being worked on right now. He said there are no more solo Iron Man films, but I am working with Marvel to do other projects. He was very vague, and I'm sitting there watching it, with one of my parents, and they said, well, why doesn't he just say it's future Avengers films? I said, because maybe it's more than just a future Avengers film. Maybe he's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy or something, because he has done that in the comics. Iron Man was a Guardian for a little bit. Actually, I think he's the one right now, where he built a spacesuit and was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But that came out, so he was very cryptic about that. And then you started hearing some things floating out of Marvel is negotiating with Sony to get partial usage rights to Spider-Man, and we talked about that last week about, well, what could this mean? Then there's a rumor that Speedball could be in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and of course he's a key character in the Civil War plot, and all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, there's a lot of pieces here. Then, from what we know about the Avengers Age of Ultron, is that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are, deemed as miracles, quote-unquote. That's not what they're calling them, but of course it's miraculous. They have powers that they weren't born with. They just acquired them. So if you think about it this way, Robert Downey Jr. has got to be looking at this like, man, there's got to be a way to regulate all this stuff, because we can't just have people running around with superpowers. So everybody would need to register with the government, who of course is out to get all these people after the events of Captain America the Winter Soldier. And so now he's like, well, I'm going to side with the government. I'm going to side for structure and organization, and there's probably going to be some people that agree with him, whereas, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and maybe the Falcon and Black Widow are going to side with Captain America. And what would happen in this film? Oh, some masked man who's been parading around New York in tights and webs shows up, and boom, Spider-Man is at the middle of Civil War. See, it could happen.
Yeah, it would be a huge thing, and of course he's he's definitely caught in the middle of all that, Peter Parker, because they want him to reveal his identity because he's, part of the Avengers at the time with, Iron Man, and it's a whole thing that it very well, if they do it correctly, will work and make them a boatload of extra money.
This would be the film that would make them a dump truck of cash, a Titanic-sized dump truck load of cash. You put Iron Man in anything and people are going to go watch it. You put Iron Man in a movie against Captain America and it's like, oh boy. Because we already know they disagree. So if you look at it, all the pieces are in place. You got your Speedball, you got your Iron Man, you have your Captain America, you have gifted people like Speedball who are just wrecking things, and then, Spider-Man would all of a sudden show up. And I would be totally okay with this. I think it would be awesome. And then it would kind of break apart the Avengers and allow them to prolong their contracts. Like Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, would probably not be in Avengers 3. He'd probably show up for their big team up against Thanos, which is most likely now what we're understanding going to be Avengers 4. So Marvel has their stuff together, and it is really nice stuff. That's all I gotta say. It's very exciting.
Yeah, they got everything. Like I said, all the moving parts are now set up and ready to go. And this needs to happen correctly.
Yeah, I need to hear an announcement coming soon that Spider-Man is going to be in this film. I mean, if you think about it, Amazing Spider-Man 3 was actually supposed to come out in 2016, which is when Captain America 3 is scheduled to come out. And all of a sudden they moved it off of that date. And it's like, well, why would they do that? I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't that much of a commercial failure, especially overseas, that you would just want to backtrack it like that. Clearly there's something going on. Whether he better end up in this film, that's all. He better end up in all of the Avengers films. But It would make the most sense for him if he was going to show up in one Marvel film and one Marvel film only. It would be this one. But once again, I also mentioned he needs to be in the Infinity Gauntlet. He would make sense. Like, if he just kind of had a bit part in this and then had a big reveal in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline with Thanos and, half of the people on Earth being killed, that would make some sense. And if Marvel gets him back, I will throw my money at them. Just take all of it. Take every piece of cash, change, credit that I have. Take my money, Marvel. Take my money.
Yeah, that's what we were saying beforehand. We'll just get wheelbarrows ready for all of the comic book fans and like all of our friends. We'll just put all the money in it, and we'll take it right to the Marvel offices and just say, here, just take it. We don't need this anymore. It's yours.
Addressed to Kevin Feige and company. Please take our money, enjoy it, and make more. Do more of what you're doing, and we will bring more money. We will bring our hard-earned money to this. And speaking of, characters kind of appearing and team-ups and stuff, the last bit of news that we had come out of New York Comic-Con, and our last bit of news for the show this week, was Daredevil. The Netflix series Marvel's Daredevil was officially shown to the people of New York Comic-Con. They had some teaser footage, a trailer of sorts that showed Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. It showed Daredevil in his first suit, which is a ninja suit, which is accurate to the Frank Miller comics. And they showed Matt Murdock. They showed some of the other people from the series. And man, I heard this looks good. Everything that I heard is this is super dark, and you wouldn't even know it was a Marvel thing unless you knew that it was like Daredevil was connected with Marvel.
That's awesome. I need to get. I want to take a look at some of the footage. Daredevil's a character for me that was like one of the first ever comic books that I read as a kid, so it does intrigue me. And of course, we had the weird Ben Affleck movie that everybody kind of. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. Where like there's a lot of things wrong with it. It wasn't comics accurate. It was just kind of like, ooh, there's a comic book guy that we can make. But Daredevil's just a really intriguing character. So the fact that it's going to be on Netflix, just like Orange is the New Black and House of Cards and those things, where it's a Netflix original series where it's going to get released all at once, where you don't have to wait weekly for an episode, is going to be huge too.
Yeah, they said it's essentially going to be like a 12-hour movie, because each episode is an hour long. There's going to be 12 episodes, and you really get to see the character of Daredevil fleshed out throughout this whole series. He's going to wear multiple suits, so he's going to have his Black Ninja one, and then, of course, he's going to, evolve and upgrade and become more of a professional hero, if you will. They said the Kingpin's really going to have a sympathetic storyline, which I think is great, because in the Daredevil movie, one of the things that was wrong with it was Kingpin was great, but he didn't have much of a story. Like, he was just kind of there. Daredevil hated him, but we really didn't know why. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this. I hope Elektra shows up at some point, a well-done Elektra, because she has, of course, a big part in Daredevil's life. Happy Hogan, or not Happy Hogan. I can't think of his name. Daredevil's working buddy, who was also played by Jon Favreau, who played Happy Hogan in the Iron Man films. I'll think of it. But he's going to be in it, of course, Daredevil's partner. A lot of this, I'm excited. They said this is essentially going to be R-rated Marvel. Like, there's going to be blood, there's going to be cussing, it's going to be dark, it's going to be serious. And I'm like, good, something different. This is what continues to astound me about Marvel, is they're like, you know what, we're really good at that, but we're going to go over here because this is what fits the character. We're going to go to what fits the character, not what we think is going to make money.
Yeah, you can't do a super happy Daredevil thing. That's not, it doesn't fit. The character, this is another character that's based in New York, but he's in like the, Hell's Kitchen, which is not that great of a neighborhood.
No, it's pretty crappy.
It's, like it makes sense for it to be dark, kind of gloomy, just being street tough. That's who Matt Murdock is. You got to get by. Now the thing is, are they going to make him blind though?
Yes, they said that that's going to be told in the first episode. They're going to tell his origins. They're going to show how he was blinded. There's actually some set release leaks of that, because they're filming it in New York, which is awesome. All of the Marvel Netflix series are going to be filmed in New York on site. There was some leaks of a kid yelling, I can't see, I can't see. And so I'm like, yes, they're telling the origin probably in the first 10 minutes of the first episode. We're going to get it right out of the way and not waste too much time on it. But Yeah, he's gritty, he's street level, he's serious. I'm trying to think of what else I read about this series. Oh, the interesting thing was Charlie Cox, the guy who they're casting as Daredevil. Joe Quesada said that he knew who was going to play Daredevil before they even owned the rights to the character. Like, when, 20th Century Fox and everybody over there still owned the rights, he said, I found our Daredevil, we just don't own the character yet. And that's who they ended up casting, which was Charlie Cox. And I'm like, man, that just shows how future thinking they are, that they're like, well, here's a character we don't own yet, but when we do get the rights back because we're going to buy him, yeah, we're going to get this guy to play him and it's going to be legit. And having seen the first picture of Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, at first I'm like, man, that's the guy from like Downton Abbey and stuff. How's he going to play Matt Murdock? And then they, of course, released a picture of him, and I said, oh, sold. Okay, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, that's awesome that they can have the foresight. They can look into the future and say, this is what's going to happen. And that's the guy. The Marvel is just an amazing company. Like, you have all these fanboys for DC that just try and destroy Marvel for whatever reason, but I'm not that guy. Like, I'm very much in touch with both of the things. Like, obviously I'm a little more DC, like we've established from the beginning of the show. I'm a little more DC than I am Marvel, but I can see where Marvel does things great, where DC and Warner Brothers kind of fumble a lot, and Marvel knows what they're doing, and they do such a great job with all their cinematic and television things.
Yeah, it's appreciating good business and good production. That's what this really ultimately is about. And so, kind of just wrapping up this, I don't believe that the footage is available anywhere online. I don't think it's leaked. Marvel tends to do a pretty good job of keeping a lid on that kind of stuff. But definitely try to find some of the pictures that they released, because they did release some of the pictures of Daredevil, like in his ninja suit, and just Matt Murdock as himself. Definitely try to look those up. I would encourage everyone to do that. And find as much as you can. You know what? This is going to be the first one. All of these characters, including Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, are all going to be in a movie at some point as well. They're probably going to end up in that big crossover movie that involves Thanos. So if you really want to just try to stay in touch with the cinematic universe, this is a show that I think people are going to love. It's dark. It's awesome. Daredevil is basically a Marvel Dark Knight of sorts. He's trying to bring justice that he doesn't get in the courtroom. Like, he's trying to go after these people. And he's very conflicted. A lot of his Catholic origins comes out in a lot of this stuff. So, you know what? I'm excited for this. It's just one more thing. I'm excited for both Marvel and DC and everything that they're doing in the entertainment world of things and in the comic world of things. It's been an exciting week to be a nerd, man. This has been exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we just keep saying it. This is one of the greatest times ever to be a comic book fan, with all the stuff that's going on actual television. Now we're getting Netflix series, all the stuff that's been going on in the movie theaters, all the great books that have been coming out recently. Like, it's only getting better, and it's hard to say that that's what's happening because it's so good right now.
Right, and you know what? I hope that they just keep riding high and they keep getting new creative ideas. Lady Thor sounds like she's still continuing to be great, and of course, Captain America being, Falcon now, Sam Wilson. So we're going to get to our last segment here now, our rants of the week. Mike, do you have anything you want to rant on real quick? What's grinding your gears? Good or bad?
FIFA. FIFA's grinding my gears. This is something that we talk about when we're playing. Is just, it's not even so much FIFA as it is like a lot of sports video games and video games in general. The people exploiting bad programming. Like, yes, we understand that if you do this one move on FIFA, I'm not even going to say it because I don't want anybody that's listening that doesn't know how to do it to start using it, that you're going to score a goal pretty much every time. There's the same thing in the NHL series, where if you go to a certain spot on the ice and you take a certain shot, it's going to go in 100% of the time. It's the fact that somebody's getting paid a lot of money to make the games and not realize that that's happening, because it's been a problem in FIFA for the last at least 4 years, and the NHL game, and the same thing about 4 or 5 years with the same, glitchy, bad programming mechanics. Like, just stop. Play the game pure. I'm not saying you have to go and play, soccer the exact way you see it on TV with a lot of passing and, moving back to go forward or whatever, or hockey where you have to sit in the zone and cycle the puck for a good shot, but at least play the game the way it's intended to be played. Don't be one of these glitchy guys where you're just like, well, this is going to work every single time, so I'm going to win every game 5, 10, 16, nothing, and screw everybody else because this is me. I only care about winning. I don't care about the enjoyment I get from playing this game and having fun.
Yeah, it's taking advantage of the glitches and taking advantage of the hacks. Essentially what Mike and I are pissed about is you're doing a move that you would never see done in an actual game of soccer. Like we said, you don't have to play like real soccer, but you would never ever do what these people do. And you would never see this. This is the most like asinine thing that you would do in a soccer match, and yet it works on the game because it takes advantage of human error. That's basically the best way we can put it, of human instinct. It completely takes advantage of it, and it's very frustrating for people who actually do try to play real soccer like me on the game, because I actually did play soccer and still do play soccer whenever my torn up body will allow it. My rant of the week is on the fanboys who are upset that the Flash is not going to cross over and become the Flash in the DC movies. The Flash TV show is CW's most popular show ever. Grant Gustin plays the character incredibly well. Everybody was expecting, okay, if we're going to see the Flash, Grant Gustin is just going to cross over and he's going to be it, because CW, Warner Brothers, they're connected, and then we can maybe see like Green Arrow and this, that, and the other thing. And Ezra Miller looks like a model, and he looks really weird in his pictures. All of that is fine and dandy. But this is the thing. The Flash show stands good on its own. They can tell stories that they will never be able to tell in the movies. And the thing is, Grant Gustin plays an entirely different type of Flash than we may even see in the DC cinematic universe. It's okay to have things that are separate, not connected, and still good. We have no idea if Ezra Miller is going to be good for this part, but the point is, they have all of these years until the Flash solo film comes out to groom him for the character and to get him ready. He can grow up a little bit. He can read his comics and really learn about it. Whereas Grant Gustin has to basically just play the Flash on a TV budget. He's good for what he is. He's a TV actor, whereas Ezra Miller is a movie actor. You can have two people play the same character in different universes and play them well. So don't get mad just because you're not the same as Marvel. I am glad that DC is doing something different and saying, nope, TV is on its own, because it actually gives their TV more freedom to be creative, and it gives their movies more chance to be creative, independent of each other, without one having to affect the other. They can be great in their own right, and they can build their own universes that people will enjoy. Not to mention there's an entirely different target audience for movies and the CW. Let's just be honest with each other. So, for me, that's my rant of the week. Just get off your high horse. You don't know if Ezra Miller is going to be good yet. Yes, Grant Gustin is great, and they're going to pay him a boatload of cash to be good on TV. So let's just be happy with it. Enjoy your show. Enjoy the movie when it comes out. You're going to get two completely different versions of The Flash, and that's fine. Get over it. It's going to be great.
The Flash, man. I still can't believe that he has his own TV show.
Who would have thought that we'd be having a discussion about The Flash, the guy that Sheldon Cooper loves on Big Bang Theory, that just makes me pissed off because he loves him.
Yeah, it makes a boatload of sense, though, too, to have the two different things, because, like you said, DC and Warner Brothers have confirmed that they're not going to cross over anyway, so you're going to have two things. We could have this situation, so like we have two people playing the Flash, or you could have the situation that Marvel had, but because they didn't have the rights to the Fantastic Four, you had the Human Torch wind up playing Captain America.
Yeah, exactly.
So like you have somebody that's technically in the same universe playing two different characters in that universe. Because as we know in the comics, the Fantastic Four and Captain America would actually cross over and meet at some point.
Yeah, and the other interesting, the same thing with Fox and Quicksilver. You could have had the same actor just play Quicksilver in the Fox universe and in the Marvel universe, and everybody could have played nice. But nope, they decided not to do that. And actually, Mike, I don't know if you knew this, or if the fans out there knew this, there's actually I believe it's a Golden Age hero. Really early on, it was with Captain America in the 1940s, so whatever era that would be. named the Human Torch. He was a robot, and he actually appears in the Stark Expo in Iron Man 2. And there's rumors that he's going to be appearing on the Agent Carter series back then with the Howling Commandos. So there's actually two different iterations of the Human Torch. There's Johnny Storm, and there is the Human Torch, who is like a half-man, half-robot, sentient type thing, from what I understand. And actually, he might actually appear in Age of Ultron as well, in a flashback scene. So, yeah, it's all kinds of confusing and all kinds of weird, but that's the good and the bad of that. So, we're going to wrap up this show. Once again, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us here on the Mad Nerds Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Find us on, Facebook, like our Facebook group. Follow us on Twitter. We're starting to use that a lot more. And we'd love to hear some feedback from you once again. If you hear us on iTunes, Podomatic, or Stitcher, thank you for joining us. Find us on YouTube. We'd love to interact with our fans. And I am Superhero Douche. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yep. Mike is the Hat, Twitch TV, YouTube, as well as Twitter. Those are the three places that you can find me on the internet. I'm also on Instagram, but I don't really use that thing as much as I should. But check all that stuff out. Look for all the FIFA stuff. Look for the things that we're posting up everywhere. And like I said, like David said, review all the stuff. Review it on Podomatic. Review it on iTunes. Review it on YouTube. Talk to us. Let us know how we're doing. All right?
We appreciate your support. Thank you again for joining us. This has been Episode 5, Civil War of Justice, or Episode 4, Civil War of Justice, here on the Mad Nerds Podcast. Hello, NSA guy. We're out.